When the Creator formed Adam, He did not hand him a job application or ask him to seek employment. Instead, He placed him in the Garden of Eden and entrusted him with an assignment. Work existed before any fall or hardship. It was never meant to be toil or mere survival. Adam was granted dominion, authority, and responsibility. His role wasn't to be employed, but to be deployed to steward, cultivate, and expand. But today, the world teaches us differently. From childhood, we are told to go to school, get good grades, find a stable job, and retire. However, this is not the divine design. The Creator never intended for mankind to chase a paycheck. His plan was for man to chase purpose. You were created to be a ruler, not just a worker, a creator, not just a laborer. When you realize that your true calling is far greater than any career, you begin to walk in your true identity. Many people have been misled into believing that security comes from a paycheck and that provision is found in the hands of an employer. However, the first human was not given a salary, he was given an assignment. This same principle applies today. The Creator did not send you into this world to be hired. He sent you with a purpose. You are not meant to search for a job. You are meant to discover your divine assignment. The world has conditioned us to think success is linked to employment. From an early age, we are told to pursue education, secure a stable job, and work until retirement. But this is not the way of divine wisdom. The Creator did not say, "Find a job." He said, "Seek your purpose, and everything else will fall into place." There is a profound difference between what the world teaches and what the Creator calls us to do. The world tells you to find a job to survive. The Creator calls you to find your purpose to thrive. The world says you need employment to provide for your needs. The Creator says, "I am your provider." The world system is built on effort, wages, and labor, but the divine calling is built on faith, purpose, and supernatural provision. Consider the example of the great spiritual teacher. He never told anyone to apply for a job. Instead, he invited them to follow him. When he met the fishermen, they were working their trade to earn a living, but he didn't offer them a better job. He called them to a higher purpose. "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." He shifted their focus from employment to a divine mission. Many today are stressed, anxious, and frustrated because they are chasing careers instead of their true calling. They seek security in jobs instead of finding their identity in the Creator. But a job is not your destiny. The Creator never intended for you to be trapped in a survival system. He created you to walk in your divine purpose. The difference between job seeking and purpose seeking is the difference between striving and thriving. When you seek a job, you depend on human effort. When you seek your divine purpose, you depend on the Creator. When you seek a job, you worry about economic conditions. When you seek your calling, you walk in supernatural provision. When you seek a job, you compete with others. When you seek your purpose, the Creator makes space for your gifts. You were not born to search for a job. You were born to fulfill a calling. The world says, "Find a job." The Creator says, "Seek your purpose, and everything will fall into place." The question is, which voice will you listen to? A job is temporary, but your calling is eternal. Too many people spend their lives chasing positions that can be taken away in an instant. Layoffs happen, businesses close, and economies collapse. But the call of the Creator on your life is something no one can take from you. It is not dependent on the stock market, company's success, or even your qualifications. When the Creator called Moses, he wasn't looking for a leadership role. He wasn't applying for a job. He was running from his past. But the Creator wasn't interested in his resume. He cared about his purpose. When David was chosen to be king, he wasn't in a palace. He was tending sheep in a field. He He wasn't searching for a job, he was walking in his calling before anyone even recognized it. The problem today is that many people place their security in a paycheck instead of in the Creator's promise. They define themselves by what they do, not by who they are. But a job can come and go while your calling remains. A career might last 30 or 40 years, but your purpose was designed for eternity. Even the greatest teacher did not hold a traditional job. He was not employed by any government or institution, yet he fulfilled the greatest mission in history. Paul, once a man of status and career, gave it all up to pursue his divine calling. He considered everything he had as loss for the surpassing worth of knowing the Creator. So what happens when people chase jobs instead of their purpose? They find themselves unfulfilled, restless, and always searching for the next opportunity. They spend their best years working for money instead of making an impact. But when you step into your calling, work is no longer about survival. It becomes about significance. You don't wake up just to make a living. You wake up to make a difference. The Creator never intended for His children to be trapped in the temporary. He designed you for something greater than a paycheck, bigger than a position. Jobs come and go, but what the Creator has placed inside of you is eternal. The question is, will you invest your life in something temporary, or will you step into the purpose that lasts forever? Your job is not your source. One of the greatest deceptions in the world today is the belief that a paycheck sustains you. People live their lives chasing salaries, worrying about job security, and fearing unemployment. But let me remind you, your employer is not your provider. Many have placed more trust in their paycheck than in the true provider. They rely more on their employer than on the Creator. When the paycheck is steady, they feel secure. When the job is at risk, they panic. But the Creator never called us to live in fear of provision. He called us to live by faith, knowing that our true source is beyond the world systems. Consider the story of a prophet during a time of famine. He had no job, no steady income, and no employer to depend on. Yet, he was fed by divine provision through unexpected means. When one resource dried up, another divine channel opened up. The message was clear: trust, and provision will follow. This same divine principle is still true today. Look at the people who wandered in the wilderness for years. They had no farms, no steady wages, and no business connections. Yet, every day, they were provided for. Their needs were met without human systems. This is a powerful reminder that God is not bound by earthly systems. He is the source of all provision. Now, this doesn't mean that we should sit back and do nothing. The Creator blesses diligent work, but He does not want us enslaved to fear about losing our jobs. When you realize that your job is merely a channel and that the Creator is your source, you stop fearing the end of one job because you know He can open another door. If one business fails, He can give birth to something even greater. The world tells you that you cannot survive without a job, but the Creator assures you, I will supply all your needs. The real question is, who will you trust? Your paycheck or your provider? Work is a blessing, but employment as we know it today is a system created by man. From the very beginning, the Creator designed humanity to work, not as a curse but as a divine calling. The first human being was given responsibility to work and take care of the garden. Notice, work existed before any hardship or fall. This shows us that work itself is not the issue. The problem arose when humanity fell. Work became toil. What was once joyful, purpose-driven labor became painful, survival-based effort. From then on, work became a struggle, a system of survival. This is the system we see today. People working merely to survive, to pay bills, to make it to the next paycheck. But this was never the Creator's original design. Employment, as we know it today, is a man-made system that keeps people dependent on wages instead of the Creator. Companies hire and fire at will. Jobs can be replaced. Employees can be discarded. And so, people live in fear, clinging to their jobs as if their lives depend on them. But the Creator did not design us to be slaves to such systems. He created us to work with purpose, to produce, create, and build. Look at the great leaders and visionaries of faith. None of them were simply employees. They were visionaries, entrepreneurs, and rulers. They worked, but they worked in their calling, not just for a wage. Even the greatest of all teachers was not dependent on any business or boss. He was fulfilling his mission. When he called his disciples, he didn't call them to find better jobs. He called them to kingdom work, to walk in divine purpose, not merely to earn a salary. Does this mean you should quit your job? No. But it does mean you should stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like someone who lives with divine purpose. Your work is meant to be an expression of who you were created to be, not just something you do to survive. When your work aligns with your purpose, your labor becomes a blessing, not a burden. The world teaches you to work for money, but the Creator says, do not worry about what you will eat, drink, or wear. Seek first your purpose, and all these things will be added to you. So the question is, are you working just to survive in a worldly system, or are you working in the calling the Creator has placed on your life? One leads to frustration, the other to fulfillment. Which will you choose? Look through history, and you will never find anyone who is called to simply apply for a job, chase a career, or seek employment. Instead, they were called to step out of worldly systems and into divine assignments. When others were busy with their trades, they were called to a higher purpose, to leave their nets behind and walk in something greater. They left their nets and followed Him. They didn't hesitate. They didn't say, let me finish my work first. They recognized that they were being offered something greater than a job. They were being offered a mission. Look at the tax collector. He had a secure job in the government. He was making money, but when Jesus passed by and called him, he got up and left everything behind. He didn't cling to his career because he understood that his calling was greater than his position. Even before he became an apostle, Paul was a man of high status. He was well-educated, respected, and employed in religious service. But when he encountered a greater calling, everything changed. He later reflected that what he once considered gains, he now viewed as losses for the sake of a higher purpose. Paul gave up a respected career to pursue his divine purpose. The problem today is that too many people cling to their jobs as though that is their highest calling. They define their worth by their employment status. But the truth is, our value isn't determined by what we do for a living. It's determined by our willingness to follow our calling. It's not about being an employee. It's about being a disciple. It's not about wages. It's about purpose. Does this mean you should quit your job tomorrow? Not necessarily. But it does mean you should change your mindset. You weren't just created to be employed. You were created to be deployed. The Creator wants to use you where you are, but He also wants you to be ready to move when called. If He asks you to leave your comfort zone and step into faith, will you obey? The world says, find a job, build a career. The Creator says, follow me, and I will make you. What would happen if you truly followed that call? Would you trust enough to step into your calling? Because when you follow your divine purpose, you don't just find work, you find fulfillment, and that is worth more than any paycheck. From the beginning, the Creator designed humanity to create, build, and expand. He gave the first humans a command: be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Notice He didn't say, go find a job. He said, be fruitful. That means you were created to produce, not just to consume. The problem with the world system is that it trains people to be consumers not creators. From childhood, society teaches us to study hard, get a job, earn money, and spend it on things we don't truly need. People live paycheck to paycheck, not realizing that they have been gifted with creativity, talents, and potential to produce something greater. Look at the example of someone who embodied this principle. He didn't live as a consumer. He always sought ways to multiply. When there was a shortage of food, he didn't go out and buy more. He blessed what he had, and it multiplied. When a man needed money to pay his taxes, he didn't give him a paycheck. Instead, he told him to go to the sea, where he would find what was needed. The world wants you to work for money, but the Creator's kingdom calls you to work for a purpose and allow money to follow the purpose. The difference is this: employees trade time for wages, but those with a kingdom mindset create value that multiplies. You were not designed to simply take orders. You were designed to innovate, expand, and be a blessing. Look at the parable of the talents. The master entrusted his servants with various amounts, and 2 of them multiplied what they had, but one buried his talent out of fear. The master rebuked him, calling him lazy and wicked. Why? Because the Creator expects multiplication, not stagnation. Many people today are sitting on their gifts, ideas, and potential because they're too afraid to step out. They stay in jobs they hate, working just to survive instead of walking in their true calling. But when you start seeing yourself as a producer, everything changes. Ask yourself, are you just consuming or are you producing? Are you living in fear like the servant who buried his talent, or are you multiplying what the Creator has placed in you? The Creator didn't call you to just make a living. He called you to create, expand, and leave a legacy. It's time to shift from being a consumer to being a producer. In the Creator's kingdom, fruitfulness isn't optional, it's a command. The world teaches that you need a job to survive, but the Creator has already placed something inside you that can sustain you. Your gift, the unique ability, talent, or calling, is what will open doors for you and bring you before those who can help you fulfill your purpose. Notice, it doesn't say a man's job opens doors for him. It says his gift does. It's not something you can learn from school or acquire from a job. It's something that's been within you since birth, waiting to be discovered. Look at the great figures throughout history. None of them relied solely on a job. They all used the gifts that were given to them to fulfill their purpose. Take Joseph, for instance. His gift for interpreting dreams took him from prison to the palace, making him second in command over all of Egypt. David, with his gifts of leadership and music, was called from the humble field of a shepherd to the king's court. Daniel, blessed with wisdom and visions, moved between kingdoms, influencing entire empires with the divine knowledge he had. The problem today is that many people ignore their gifts, chasing after jobs instead. They settle for employment rather than discovering what they were truly made to do. But here's the truth. If you depend on a job, you're at the mercy of the economy. If you depend on your gift, you're at the mercy of a Creator who never runs out of resources. Even Jesus demonstrated this principle. He didn't need a salary. His gift made room for him. He healed the sick, cast out demons, and changed lives wherever he went. When there was no food, he multiplied it. When someone needed money, it appeared in the mouth of a fish. He never worried about provision because he knew his gift would always provide for him. Many people today are frustrated because they are working outside of their gifts. They're trapped in jobs that drain them, rather than walking in their true calling that would fulfill them. But when you begin to operate in your divine gift, provision follows purpose. You don't have to chase money. Money will chase you. The question is, are you using your gift or are you burying it? The world tells you to look for a job, but the Creator is asking you, what is in your hands? Inside of you lies the key to your provision. It's time to stop searching for jobs and start unlocking the gift that has already been placed within you. Because when you do, your gift will open doors that no man can shut. The world tells you to find a job, but the Creator made you to solve problems. Every breakthrough, every promotion, and every great leader throughout history has risen by providing solutions. Look at Joseph. He didn't apply for a position in Pharaoh's palace. He solved the problem. Egypt was facing a famine, and Joseph had the wisdom to interpret Pharaoh's dream and provide a strategy to save the nation. That one solution took him from prison to the highest position in the land. Look at Daniel. He was a captive in Babylon, yet he became a top advisor to the king. Why? Because he solved problems. When no one else could interpret King Nebuchadnezzar's dream, Daniel sought divine insight and provided the answer that saved an empire. That solution made him a ruler over an entire province. And David, he was just a shepherd boy, overlooked and forgotten. But when Goliath appeared and threatened Israel, David stepped up and solved the problem. He didn't have a military title, but he had faith, courage, and skill. One victory over Goliath changed his life forever, bringing him into the palace. The world system teaches people to look for jobs, but the divine calling teaches people to become problem solvers. The people who rise to the top are those who answer the questions that no one else can. Instead of asking, "Where can I find a job?" start asking, "What problem can I solve?" The greatest problem solver in history was the one who changed the course of humanity. He didn't come to apply for a position, he came to be the solution. Everywhere he went, he met needs, healed the sick, fed the hungry, and brought life to the broken. And because he walked in purpose, provision always followed him. If you want to rise in life, don't chase jobs. Chase solutions. The world rewards those who solve problems. So instead of praying for a paycheck, pray for wisdom. Instead of looking for employment, look for opportunities to add value. When you become the answer to someone's need, people will seek you out. You were not created to simply fill a position. You were created to fulfill a purpose. The world is full of problems, but inside you lies the divine solution. Stop waiting for someone to hire you and start walking in the calling the Creator has placed in you. Because when you do, doors will open that no job application ever could. Many people today believe their survival depends on a salary. They live their lives chasing jobs, fearing unemployment, and measuring their security by their bank account. But let me remind you, a paycheck is limited, but the blessing of the Creator has no limits. There's a level of provision that doesn't come from human effort, it comes directly from the Creator. Take Abraham, for example. He was blessed, not because he worked tirelessly for a paycheck, but because he walked in alignment with divine purpose. His blessings multiplied beyond his expectations, and he became wealthy in livestock, silver, and gold. Similarly, Isaac faced famine, but when he obeyed a divine direction to stay where he was, he experienced a 100-fold return. He wasn't chasing after opportunities, the right ones came to him because he trusted the divine process. Then there's Solomon, who didn't ask for wealth, but sought wisdom above all else. And in return, he became the richest man in history. When divine favor is on your life, opportunities will come to you that you didn't even ask for. Favor will follow you, and doors will open that no man can shut. You won't have to beg for income. Resources will chase after you. The world calls it luck, but in reality, it's divine favor. Think about this. If money were truly the answer, why do so many rich people still feel empty? Why do celebrities, CEOs, and millionaires often struggle with depression, addiction, and dissatisfaction? Because money can sustain you for a moment, but only divine blessings bring lasting peace, joy, and fulfillment. The message is clear. When you prioritize your higher calling, provision follows naturally. It's not something you need to chase. It's something that is added to your life as you align with your divine purpose. Stop worrying about a paycheck. Start pursuing the Creator's presence. Stop chasing jobs and start chasing purpose. When you are aligned with divine favor, you'll always have more than enough. The world relies on wages, but those who walk in divine purpose rely on provision that never runs dry. From the beginning, the plan was never for you to just survive. You were meant to rule, to take dominion. The Creator made you to be a steward, not a servant. The enemy understands this, which is why he's spent generations trapping people in survival mode. The world wants you to believe life is about working, paying bills, and hoping to retire someday. But the truth is, the Creator designed you for something greater. He designed you to have authority, to create, to lead, and to shape the world around you. Take Adam. God didn't place him in the Garden of Eden as a worker. He was placed as a ruler, a steward, a manager over all of creation. Look at Joseph. He didn't stay in slavery. He went from prison to the palace and ultimately ruled over all of Egypt. David, too, started as a shepherd, but he wasn't destined to take orders for the rest of his life. He was anointed to be king. Every person who truly walks with a Creator outgrows the system of the world and steps into their divine authority. In the kingdom, you're not meant to be a slave to wages. You're meant to walk as an heir to the Creator's promise. Jesus didn't come to create employees. He came to restore kingship. You were made to walk in authority. You were made to lead, to own, to govern. Does this mean you should quit your job tomorrow? Not necessarily. But it does mean you should change your mindset. Stop thinking like a worker. Start thinking like a ruler. Stop settling for just getting by. Start seeking the Creator's vision for your life. When you realize you were created to reign, you'll never live in fear of losing a job again. The world wants you to work for money, but the Creator wants you to rule with purpose. So I ask you today, are you living as a laborer, or are you stepping into your kingship? A job is temporary. It can be taken away in an instant. Companies close, economies crash, positions get eliminated. People who put their trust in a job often live in fear. Fear of layoffs, fear of unemployment, fear of not making ends meet. But purpose is something no one can take from you. Consider Joseph. His position as a servant in Potiphar's house was taken from him when he was falsely accused and thrown into prison. But his purpose remained. That purpose ultimately led him into the palace. Look at Daniel. Kings changed, empires shifted, but Daniel remained influential because his purpose was greater than his job title. His calling never wavered. Look at Paul, who was once a Pharisee with high status in the religious system. But when he encountered his true calling, he realized that his career wasn't his true purpose. He gave it up to preach the message of hope. A job may provide a paycheck, but your purpose provides fulfillment. A job can end, but your calling continues. That's why people who live for jobs often feel lost when they retire. They spent years working for a system that never truly satisfied them. But when you live in your purpose, you never retire. You keep making an impact until your last breath. Jesus didn't have a job in the conventional sense, but he fulfilled his purpose every day. His fulfillment didn't come from money. His fulfillment came from walking in his calling. And when you align with your calling, when you step into your divine purpose, you'll find fulfillment that no paycheck could ever offer. Success is not defined by titles or salaries, but by your ability to complete the assignment you were given. That same mindset should be yours today. The world measures success by what you earn, what you own, and where you stand. But in a higher realm, success is measured by obedience and the impact you make on the lives around you. So ask yourself, are you just working for a paycheck, or are you walking in the reason you were created? One day, jobs will come to an end. But the legacy you create, the lives you touch, the purpose you fulfill, will last forever. The world tells you to look for a job, but God calls you to look for your true purpose. The world encourages you to depend on a paycheck, but God calls you to depend on His provision. The world keeps you in survival mode, but God has designed you for dominion, impact, and legacy. From the very beginning, He never told you to find employment. He said, be fruitful and multiply. Take dominion, follow Him, and He will show you your path. Every great figure who followed a higher calling, Abraham, Joseph, David, Daniel, and Paul, was elevated not because they chased jobs, but because they walked in their divine purpose. Jesus Himself never needed a job application, and He never feared provision. Why? Because He lived in alignment with His purpose, and provision followed Him wherever He went. That same promise applies to you today. So I ask you now, are you chasing a career, or are you chasing your calling? Are you relying on a salary, or are you trusting in the One who holds all provision in His hands? When you step into what you were truly created for, you will never have to chase money again. Blessings will follow you. Opportunities will find you. Because God didn't say, look for a job. He said, seek your purpose first, and everything else will be added. Your purpose is waiting. It's time to step in.